Hey YouTube, here again to do another movie review, this time Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And I'm only really doing this review because I did the review to the first of the legendary Godzillas, and I'm doing the sequel. Before I do this, I must also say when I was growing up as a child, I was a really big fan of Godzilla movies. And was totally disappointed by the Roland Emmerich movie with Matthew Broderick in 1998, but was pleasantly surprised by the legendary Godzilla movie. It came out 5 years ago with Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Elizabeth Olsen. But of course, saw potential for improvement. Jumping into the review, common thread with this new Godzilla movie, a lot of people were saying was it was boring because the human characters were boring, and not true. Not true at all. The human characters, in a lot of ways, were pretty shallow in terms of their depth of character. There wasn't much to them. They did exposit a lot. They had a lot of exposition. But I wouldn't say that they made the movie boring. Absolutely not. The movie was actually pretty fun. And there were... Before I won't talk about what exactly happened, but there were interesting things that happened with the characters that pulled me along in the story. That I was like, oh, cool. Well, that's a cool thing. And I'll talk about it in spoilers. Regarding the Godzilla features, one of the common reviews about the Godzilla movie that came out 5 years ago, there wasn't enough monster fight scenes. Let me tell you about this movie. There definitely was enough monster fight scenes. Wow. And music-wise, incredible, just awesome. So let me just jump into spoilers. If you haven't seen this yet, if you like Godzilla, you will love this movie. If you like entertaining movies with great visual effects, you'll like this movie. Great sound design, you'll love this movie. Good score, again, you'll love the movie. Before I get into spoilers, if you're expecting Citizen Kane in terms of character depth, you're not going to get that, but that's okay. And jumping into spoilers, here's why. Godzilla has always been kind of a popcorn movie thing, especially the Japanese features. It obviously is not really well developed in terms of story, and that's okay. It's a popcorn feature. Like, go into it knowing you're going to just see big monsters fight. Don't go into it expecting to become really invested in the human characters. And you know what? That was the case for like every Godzilla movie except for the Ray Burr one, which was the English edition that came out in 1954. Like, yes, that movie is one of the greatest Japanese produced movies ever. However, the trend continues. The Godzilla stories are never deep. Spoiler territory. Let's talk about this. First, I'm going to talk about the story and what I'm talking about with the characters and how there were some interesting things. Then I'm going to talk about Godzilla tie-ins and all of those references. And next, I'm going to talk about the sequels. So, story elements, human elements of the story, what's interesting about them. Basically, the protagonists are people in Monarch, which is that organization that does monster hunting or monster tracking. And here's the really big spoiler. The main two protagonists are mother and father of one female character who is the girl from Stranger Things. And they both have been dealing with the traumatic loss of their son 5 years ago in the first Godzilla movie in different ways. The protagonist's father had a run-in with alcohol addiction to deal with the loss of his son, and then the mother just dove into work. And they, spoiler again, they kind of expose this early on when the daughter, who's the girl from Stranger Things, says, there's something wrong with mom, dad, I want to talk to you about it. and the mother was like overprotective of the daughter from the father. Here's the big spoiler, and it's really unbelievable. The mother is the one who organized the antagonist and colluded with the antagonist to murder all her coworkers and kidnap the mother and the daughter to try and release monsters all over the world to, get this, try and save the environment, to restore the natural order of the world. Now, when I first saw this movie, like, I had one of these like expressions like, really? That's what happened? The mother wanted to like honor the loss of her son by having it mean something, by killing billions of people. So there's something obviously missing there, because obviously the mother did not seem imbalanced enough for it to make sense for her to do that. If they just made her seem more off going into the movie, it would have, going into the story, it would have made much more sense. But no, they decided to have her do that absolutely insane thing. And yeah, end up, because of her actions, killing billions and billions of people. Like, she released 17 kaijus all over the world around heavily populated areas. Like, one of the populated areas is, New England is where the final battle scene happens. One of the populated areas is Moscow, which is a city of nearly 10 million people just getting wiped out. And it's like, what? You did this? We're supposed to feel sorry for you when you die in the end of the movie? Okay, so Godzilla Tie-Ins, amazing. Yes, so score, I mentioned score is incredible because they brought back the old score from Japan, and it's amazing. It's incredible. I love it. Oh, when I first heard it, my heart dropped in a good way, as if I was seeing my wife or something. You know what I mean. That kind of heart drop, like, oh, wow. Like my inner child was crying on the inside because it sounds so good in theaters. They brought back not only the bum 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 bum, but they brought on the full-on dun 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 during the fight scenes with Godzilla and King Ghidorah. They brought back the oxygen bomb, and the second the oxygen bomb didn't work on King Ghidorah, and they called him Monster Zero a couple times. I'm like, oh, Monster Zero. They exposed that King Ghidorah is actually an alien. That's why the oxygen bomb doesn't work on him. Incredible. And they expand the lore not only for the Legendary series by having more tie-ins with kaiju, but also for the original series. It shows as to how Godzilla's been able to survive so long for so many years, have with his G cells nuclear healing factor, and him to have an oxygenated place underground where if we're talking about the pre 1995 Godzilla to her, but to him for the post 1995, because the pre 1995 is the mom, but the post 1995 because Godzilla went nuclear in 95, but this time the Godzilla in this movie goes nuclear but survives, and get this, eats King Ghidorah. What the? And Rodan obviously survives. This is the first death for Mothra. Mothra dies in the movie, and it's like, what? It's heartbreaking when Mothra died, but, really cool though. Amazing, like, how they had all the different monsters fight. Obviously, they didn't have 17 monsters fighting at once, and actually, it was a really cool shot to have all the 4 kaiju surrounding Godzilla in Boston. Godzilla being bowed to by Rodan and all the other kaijus and one of the Mutos. But really, I thought that was kind of, I guess it made sense that, all the monsters can't get there at once. In fact, it was a little weird for them to get there. But you really have to suspend your disbelief in Godzilla movies, because you really do, because you're doing big giant monsters anyways, and you can't really enjoy it if you're thinking about the story too much. Other tie-ins, the G Squad, no, not G Squad, not the correct reference. G-Force. The G-Force was the militarized element of Monarch, and that was clever that they named it that. What do I give this movie in terms of a rating? Obviously, I go by a grade rating. And people often compare this to the first one, and it's very different than the first legendary Godzilla movie that came out 5 years ago. And it kind of transitioned to the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of like what's negatively affecting the story. Negatively affected the story in the first one. There wasn't enough Godzilla, and it focused too much on the characters. Negative effect of this one, they have a lot of monster fights, but that pulls away from the character development, human character development a bit. And I think it's better on this side. It's a Godzilla movie. It's okay that it's not an overly developed story. Just let go a bit. Incredible monster fights. You go to a Godzilla movie expecting kaijus kicking ass, and I saw everything I wanted to see in this movie. King Ghidorah kicking the shit out of Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra. Awesome. Godzilla going nuclear. Huge bonus. Not even expecting that. Awesome. Godzilla, and having him sort of protecting the human element to it. That's what really brought more to the story, too. It kind of showed Godzilla's emotional element to it. I always felt like the legendary Godzilla was a little more mindless than the Heisei or the Show Godzilla, and Godzilla showed a lot of emotion here, and that kind of aided the story a bunch. So in terms of grade, I would say a B minus. First one was around that, so about the same as first one, but way more enjoyable. Obviously the movie wasn't as good in terms of story, but it was better in terms of an entertainment experience because they invested a lot more in visual effects, and the sound design's incredible. Oh my gosh, that sound design in that movie is unbelievable. So that's it for me. I really, it's a good movie. It's one of the good movies right now. If you were to pick one movie, it's been going out, what's out. If you're not going to see Endgame again, here's your choices of movies that are out right now: Aladdin, Rocketman, Godzilla. Go see Godzilla, because it's an IP that deserves the financial support. And I haven't seen Rocketman, but if I were me going for an entertainment experience, just saying, maybe you see that next. That's it for me. I'll catch you guys in the next one.